they have a last chance to punch upwards, be a stumbling block, and achieve something outside of just players qualification, which sadly has eluded them.
Certainly has. Well, we're into draft here as JDG instantly targeting players. Lien has his Nidalee removed, Xiaoxu has his Jax removed, and then the Ahri a little bit more meta, but Mole has certainly been keen on that one. And now, while Knight has played plenty of the Nico over the split, this is ultimately a Mole takeaway.
It's just such an easy first lock-in as well, because Nico does pretty much everything you want from a mid laner in the LPL. I know that worldwide sometimes the Nico has been harder to execute, but LPL has taken to the Nico like a duck to water, really. It has felt like a lot of the mid laners which have succeeded on this champion have used it for great teamfight engages. I think LPL mid laners, I think the skill set which they show about, like in terms of regional specialty, is being able to engage fights. And someone like Knight, who already does that so well and stuff like the Annie and has done on so many different picks throughout the years, it's very, very familiar territory on a very strong pick. On the other side, giving over that Kai'Sa, and of course this is still, you know, very powerful Kai'Sa. You get to build that Shiv, you can go AP or AD, either way, it works out well for you.
Yeah, it certainly does. Kai'Sa, I think, pretty much unarguably the strongest AD carry on the patch, with everything else being
nerfed out of existence.
Kai'Sa. Well, yeah, I guess that's one way to look at it too. Lea going to go for the Wukong. Does you do have a question of what's going to come out in the mid lane here for Mole, don't you? Where the Nico's taken away, the Ahri banned, LeBlanc banned as well. I feel like, you know, there's been plenty of other picks in the mid lane, but what Mole will go for specifically, I'm not so sure.
That's a good question, because it has felt like Rare Atom has really been trying to leverage Ahri, which is banned away in the first round by JDG. That's good prep, because whether it's Mole or Strive, they've both succeeded on that pick quite a lot. And Mole, you know, he's played a bit of the Annie, a little bit. You're starting to really get into some quite difficult territory here for Rare Atom. There's a strong bot lane as well from Ruler and Missing. So you have questions in both bot and mid lane, and you're going to have to use those counter picks well to try and get some leverage on the map. Otherwise, it was said at the start of the year, if you lost lane to JDG, you basically never win a game against them. These counter picks have to have high value.
Okay, Syndra comes through. This is kind of what I was alluding to. Like, he's played one game of Annie all split, and it was not pretty. Mole gonna bring some old school mid lane picks out. The Syndra, the lane bully that wants to try and dominate in that matchup. And like you say, you gotta beat JDG in lanes if you want to have a chance. So Mole very much looking to do that with the Syndra lock-in. I'm excited to see this one. Mole, a player that, you know, when it comes to his laning and his mechanics, certainly not a player that's often criticized. You know, not necessarily a perfect player by any stretch, but certainly when he was at his peak, was known for dominating the lane, and Syndra was one of those picks that he liked to do that on.
So that's one to track. It is an interactive lane matchup. You know, one thing which could be really funny is, you know how Syndra can pick up minions and throw them? One of the ways you can tell if one of those minions is Nico is that you can't pick up the minion.
Mash W on it.
It's like, hang on a second, I've got a bug. Pauses the game. No, in fact, that is a Nico. That's we would have seen pauses for a great many Stranger Things since then. But we're getting some supports removed from the champion pools, getting some of Kanavi's junglers as well taken off the table. Kanavi's been playing some different stuff recently, though. Played a Lilia game, played some of the Rel jungle as well. Has felt like Kanavi has been... Belveth as well. You know, and I was about to say, it feels like with picks like that, even through last year as well, Kanavi's never really been afraid to put out something different into the jungle, even when the meta has been fairly well discovered.
Do you know what? It's just dawned on me. Yeah. He's going to play Nico jungle and
oh, that'd be so great.
Oh, there's also Ivan available.
Yeah, true.
Send the Nico up top, Tristana mid, Ivan. Oh, Shyvana. Oh, okay. Renekton's going to come through. I'm assuming that's for 369.
Long gone are the days of the Renekton mid, which LPL really used to like thinking about it. You know what? I kind of want to see some Renekton mid make a comeback. I think there are some drafts where it's okay. But that champion has been very, very strong in that knocked-in. Wouldn't surprise me to see that one locked in, especially next patch when some of our junglers are getting even more kind of brought into line. The knocked-ins kind of survived that. It will be the Sejuani, though. That is some of the long-range engage to help Knight not go alone into that. And a couple of picks on the other side for Xiaoxu being hovered. Xiaoxu, as an individual top laner, has had a pretty good split. Spring, it felt like he was a strong top laner on a pretty middling team, at least on an individual level. In summer, I feel like that's kind of continued. I think that Rare Atom as a whole have had some pretty good individual performances. It's been tying them together, which has been a bit of a problem.
Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of been true of a lot of Rare Atom, right? Where there have been big individual games. I'd say from every single player on this roster that's on your screen right now. Like, we have seen pop, like Xiaoshu especially. I definitely agree with that point. But like Mole's had a couple of big games. Lien's had a couple of carry games. Asuma Feather have had some insane laning phases. But it A, doesn't ever feel like everyone's doing it at the same time. But B, as well, doesn't feel like anyone can consistently pull that off, you know? Like, I feel like Xiaoshu's the only one on the roster where I'd say has consistently been able to find himself leads. So it's been, honestly, like, I was looking at this roster and I was excited for them this split. I've been disappointed, to be honest, with how the season has turned out for Rare Atom, because this is a team that when you do look at the roster, you can, like, I can kind of vibe with it, you know? I feel like that this was, you know, they brought in Baolan, they brought in Mole, they had Lien already. I was like, okay, let's go. Full dive compositions, like all-out aggression. I don't really feel like we've seen that side of them as much. I don't feel like they've lent in that way.
I think it's been a lot about that synergy. You talked about those, you know, a couple of different supports being brought in, like Baolan. Of course, they had Southwind in spring, who's since retired coming into summer. It's felt like Rare Atom have struggled to find everyone on the same page. One of the big things which Rare Atom were trying to do is figuring out if jungle was playing support or damage, and whether support was playing more peel or more engage. They found some tentative balances between here and there, but on the other side, you compare that to the jungle support of JDG, Kanavi missing. They have been utterly sublime this year.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like every time I cast JDG, I'm just like the leader of the fan club, just like singing their praises. It's hard not to. Luckily, I wasn't casting their IG JDG series, because you would have just heard me sobbing on the cast. As I will say, the way that IG managed to take that game from JDG, like, they did well in game number 1 of the series as well. Like, that was not that far off an IG series win. And like you say, the way that they took JDG to 3 games, the way that they challenged this team was lane dominance, was fighting them early. Not like me and you were talking about this a few days ago. Like, so many of the teams are playing this like really slow style of League of Legends.
Have you been casting too much LNG?
Well, yeah. But I just don't believe that that is fundamentally how you should play League of Legends right now. Both JDG and BLG play fast and aggressive. They play to snowball leads. And IG basically did that to BLG. To JDG, sorry. They fought them in the early game, stopped them being able to just build this massive lead for free against passive teams. And it looked fantastic. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. How is no other team seeing this?
Crazy. I was crazy once, but then I saw what JDG could do with these skirmishes, and they go absolutely nuts. As soon as you give them that one opening, that's the problem, right? Where every time you try and flip the early game, there's a chance that they just win that as well. And you slip up once, and you see their team fighting prowess really start shooting through the roof. Which is why you have to see them really stick the landing in mid-game. Teams like IG, teams like Rare Atom, teams like... Even a team like FPX is probably not a bad example of this. They've tried to go for stuff like this Blitzcrank pick that we see out of Feather and try and get some miracle hooks here and there, go for some level 1s, but getting that consistently after the first few minutes of the game can be a little bit difficult. In this game, I'd really like to see some early flashes blown from this Zyra Khan, if at all possible. Player like Ruler, we absolutely know what he can do when he gets a lot of early game leads. The way that teams have tried to deal with that, though, is trying to land hooks like that, which can continually put them under pressure.
Yeah, you got to find Ruler with the hook, though, missing. Will pretty much always be able to zip himself out to safety. Big wave crash in that bottom side. Be curious to see if we see a cheater recall out from Ruler and missing, but not typically something we've been seeing in the LPL this split. As Kanavi paths down towards this bottom side, and in that IG series, ganks towards the bottom lane from Tianjin were a lot of the early game power. That was how they built a lot of their leads. So we'll see if that's going to come through from Lien, who is headed down to that bottom side as well.
He's going to get watered out, though. That's what the early wave priority gets from Ruler and Missing. They get to move first from lane, and they get to put down some vision in River. Allows Kanavi to walk into the enemy jungle as wave control is also established. Potential of a hook landing onto Ruler, but not going to be put out to dry too much there. And now junglers will spot each other on the bot side of the map.
Yeah, though it was a good attempt on the hook from Feather, using the minion dematerializer to set up for the attempt, but Ruler's wise to your tricks and will survive. As Kanavi, I think he wants a double skull here. Knight going to push Mole underneath that tower. Kanavi gets to just stroll through the mid lane, and I think Leon knows that he ain't contesting this one.
Well, he looks at 3 of his lanes pushed under turrets and goes, that's pretty unplayable. 3 losing lanes in the early game. So we'll track those CS differences, and we'll see what happens with Kanavi getting across into enemy camps and into river as well. Because playing jungle with losing lanes, it feels pretty bad. But this is the problem against JDG, and a problem against Kanavi as well. Kanavi's forever been a jungler that loves to use pushing lanes to just walk into the enemy jungle and take stuff for free.
Yeah, just try and body Leon. Leon actually got most of that camp, but the double scuttle means that Kanavi's still ahead in CS. And I'm kind of keeping a weather eye on that top lane as well. Oh, nice little route from Ruler. Bit of damage onto the Blitzcrank. Because, you know, ordinarily, I'd say, okay, the junglers kind of focusing on the bottom side of the map, pathing down towards that bottom lane. That means that 369's got a cage match in the top side. And usually, I favor 369 100% of the time. But Xiaoshu, again, has been so impressive this split and has consistently been finding these solo kills. I'm cautiously optimistic to see what Xiaoshu could do, despite the fact he is against a Renekton in the early game. That will be a tough matchup.
It's the Octagon on the top side is what you're saying. MMA, full time of the year. See how much we can get out of this. Of course, Bruiser versus Bruiser means that you can get some pretty good low health turnarounds as well. Both these champions with a lot of instant turnaround damage. So potentially see what happens, particularly past that level 6 mark. First dragon of the game has spawned. JDG continuing to push up. They're getting their first resets to the game in now, so they're going to get that early CS lead converted into combat stats, which they can use to, hopefully, for JDG, control the next few minutes of laning phase as well. Very interested to see if there'll be any counterpunch around something like the Herald. I think if you give up a Herald for free as the side of Rare Atom, I think at that point you can start saying goodbye to this game, because having laning lead into, well, in every lane, and then kind of transitioning that into both early neutral objectives, that feels like way too much to give up in an early game in this meta.
Yeah, it certainly does. I feel like just giving up objectives in the other game is rough. Leon doesn't want to. Missing drops his MSI about. He's like, do you know who I am? You think you can step up to me? I'm missing. I'm MSI champion.
I have a ping named after me. Missing ping.
I'm not sure that's the best ping to have named after you, to be honest. Oh dear. You know, it's kind of funny to think about Missing and the support that he's become. Because I remember Missing, like, when he was on WE, this guy was known as, like, the Blitzcrank Nautilus guy. It was like, or Thresh as well. It's like, if he's on a hook champion, he's great. If he's not on a hook champion, bad news. I can't remember the last time I saw him on a hook champion, aside from Nautilus. He just plays meta now, and he's damn good at it.
And I think what's really special with that, too, is that, you know, he's been so good in lane and in team fights, and having that backup ruler is such an incredible factor for JDG. They have been the best laning bot lane in the entirety of the league. This is the cage match once again on top side.
Xiaoshu gets away with his life. 369, I felt like just went in just a tiny bit too soon there. Knight was on the way. But Xiaoshu forced to back away from this one. Does have his all-out available, but this is going to be 2 plates with 369 just in the isolated matchup. And remember, Xiaoshu picked K'Sante into the Renekton when it was already locked.
The problem is, you look at the Renekton Sejuani, and if you don't pick K'Sante, that duo is going to be in your lane 24/7, you just die. This is kind of a consolation, oh well, I can't get dived at least not easily. Xiaoshu eating some bad trades, and you can see that Sejuani is on the top side of the map. There is the potential of a dive. Ult from Xiaoshu, I think, probably should dissuade them, but we'll see.
Kanavi with a bit of a whiff to start it off. The all-out pulls him away from the tower, and I think Xiaoshu has managed to survive this one for now, but Knight's moving over. Leon's here too. The stun is there. 369 caught out, knocked up Leon. Grabs himself first, but beautiful play from Xiaoshu.
And that'll be one of many reasons you try not to dive the K'Sante. Way too much mobility, the ability to reset cooldowns and mobility as well from that ultimate in the all-out. Xiaoshu plays it out as well as you'd like. Gets a kill, participation, if not the kill itself. And getting a death onto the column of 369 important for them as well. Sadly, it's still very much losing lanes across the board for Rare Atom. It's a feel-good moment in what has been quite a difficult standard early game for them. So going back into the replay, again, you see the Renekton Sidrani. If the ult lands, that's all well and good. Maybe potentially could have pulled off the kill with the burst damage at that point, but skill shots misses. There would have been enough dashes from Xiaoshu really to have some option of dodging that ultimate, and then just refreshes the cooldowns, kites them away as best as he can.
Really nice flash from Xiaoshu as well to go the opposite direction, just as 369's used his dice as well. So well played by Xiaoshu, surviving what was a 3-man dive from JDG. Name another player that can say, I survived a 3-man dive from JDG. It's like one of those little stickers that you get at the dentist. Like,
I was gonna think like a theme
school
park
jumper with pride.
Like a theme park, like I survived Oblivion at Alton Towers or something like that.
Yeah. Nemesis.
Yes, that's my favorite
Great
ride. I used to be a huge theme park junkie. Would like to have less of a bounce house for missing though. That one's gonna pull a few G-forces around that bend. But again, doing well at just kind of disabling what Feather wants to do on this Blitzcrank.
Yeah, well played by missing to be able to avoid a lot of that. And this is one of the values of the Xayah Rakan is obviously you get the lane benefits from having the duo, but Xayah is very safe to just farm up by herself in the bottom lane. She has great wave clear. So Rakan can just move around the map and influence the rest of the game. And like you say, does such a good job of really ruining Blitzcrank's game plan. Like every time Blitzcrank tries to find a hook over, Rakan is just so slippery. He always manages to find a way out.
Until you get to late game where you can actually one-shot the Rakan. That's where the matchup starts to change, and that's kind of what Rare Atom are banking on now. You're hoping for some kind of miracle picks, because it does feel like when you've got Knight at a strong laning advantage in mid lane, which we barely touched on as well, and then of course this Xayah in such a good position to escape the diving threats of Rare Atom, you need to have that X Factor. Xiaoshu potentially ulting through the wall.
369 taken with the all out here, looking for the 1v1, but Lien's getting involved as well. There's Cyclone, second kill of the game, both on the Monkey King. Feather flashing over the wall, but kind of kept himself into play there. Not the greatest flash you've ever seen, as it's the junglers taking all of the kills this game.
And one of these kills is not equal to the other, because Assume is losing farm. Now, something like the Renekton, I mean, still has that lane lead. Will still be able to function as a champion. This Xayah is going to go absolutely, like, turbo into the late game. I really don't know how Rare Atom are going to get Assume back into the game. This Kai'Sa absolutely on a shoestring this game.
Yeah, this is tough. 30 CS lead down in the bottom side. You mentioned we're going to keep track of those CS leads. It's 10 up top despite the 2 deaths. The 369 still has a lead. Lien really wants to try and get in. This is his second Drake where he's shown up to kind of watch the enemy team
Feather.
take it, and a great little ult onto Feather as well. And there we go, kill for Knight.
Birds of a feather die together, apparently. Xayah Rakan taking down Blitzcrank because they just have no flash. I mean, what do you do? That flash, which didn't achieve anything towards that bot side, now leaves Feather unable to disengage from that situation. JDG taking the first 2 dragons, they taking the first Herald. This replay is going to be top side. So this is the one good moment coming in from Rare Atom where get the shunt into the wall, ult right the way down terrain. Lien cuts off any escape angle. Wait, was that an E? I don't think that was a W. That was just like the E dragging over the wall. I didn't quite realize the interaction worked like that. Mid lane, Knight's been caught.
Knight is definitely going to go down here. One more auto will finish the job. Oh no. Oh no, he actually walks away. Oh, it's tragedy for RA. They don't even have a Herald to slam down or anything. They'll get a plate out of that one. Tough situation for RA. Just want to quickly mention, hang on a second. I'm not going to mention anything. Lien is going to walk right into a Crocodilio, and over the wall goes the boar. Lien is going to go down. Surely is missing. Wants a little bit more as well, but Lien doing a Knight. Flashed on by Kanavi though, so he won't escape. Mole has no mana. Feather with a hook onto missing, but he might have just engaged on the Rakan's behalf here. Double knocker comes through, and Assume is sent packing.
Well, that's a bit awkward. The hook lands, and for once there is a hook landed onto a target. Awesome, and it has achieved death, is what it has achieved. So Feather having a very difficult game on the Blitzcrank. It has been missing just having his number in laning phase and then into these skirmishes as well. Ruler doesn't even need to be at the play. Play is absolutely demolishing the bottom half of the map, taking jungle camps, taking farm, and if it weren't bad enough for Assume already, Ruler is just, again, accelerating hugely into this game.
on the topic of the bit of a bot gap we've got going on in this game, Ruler playing his own world skin, right? Like that, there's a level of style there that very few players in the world are even allowed to achieve. Yeah. But I want to point out Missing, because Baolan is the sub on RA, and guess whose skin Missing is playing with in all of these plays? It's Baolan's.
I love this kind of thing. It's like when when Uzi had his first game back for EDG, he played the EDG Aphelios skin alongside Mako as well. There's some symbolism to that, and I know that LPL players, they love a little bit of that symbolism. It adds like a little bit of extra spice to the gameplay that they show. Going back into this replay, I mean, yeah, just hit the ulting Rakan into your team feels a little bit awkward. Later into the game, maybe you will have the damage to kill the Rakan. I don't know if you've reached that point now. Look at this gold lead at just 14 minutes in. Plates have fallen, but that doesn't mean that JDG haven't taken huge amounts of gold just before they went down. Rare Atom, I mean, how do you stabilize this game? You don't even have anything like a Shiv on the Kai'Sa to try and stall out the game with wave clear. You are really just holding on in white-knuckled kind of anxiety, trying to look for JDG to slip up and let you into the game.
And again, it comes back to what we talked about before, right? Where it's like, you can't afford to just have standard laning phases against this team, because you... Like, who in the world is beating these guys in the laning phase? I mean, BLG would be your first shout, right? But we've seen that doesn't seem to work out. So you have to do something to disrupt the laning phases. You have to have your jungle getting into lanes from the word go. You have to have some kind of presence, because otherwise they'll just build a lead and then use that lead to play for the neutral objectives and then just snowball out of control. It's beautiful to see every single time from JDG. They continue. I mean, 5,000 gold lead at 15 minutes when they've only got 4 kills.
No, I mean, JDG are a veritable Fort Knox of gold at this point. They have bagged up everything they can see. It's an utter heist across the entirety of the Rift. You're looking for miracle hooks, and even then, that's not a bad stun, but it's not enough.
Oh, that's beautiful. The follow-up from Missing into the Pop Blossom. JDG, the fight's already won, and it's only just begun. Mole will be next if Ruler wants to flash for it, but the Q is enough. Who needs to flash? Ruler's having none of it today. The pullback isn't quite enough to finish off Assume, who's trying to get back in. Missing has been pulled out of the play. Will be able to dash out, though, and keeps himself safe. Oh, the feathers! It's enough to set up the kill, but Xiaoshu finding one at least.
It's 16 minutes in. We've barely woken up and had our morning coffee at this point, but JDG, they're right at work already. Sat down at their desk and filing out paperwork for the burial of Rare Atom, because this is utterly absurd once again. One of the problems with, as I just see a Medjai's picked up in Knight's inventory, I appreciate that so much, but one of the things is, about JDG, we talked about, hey, you have to contest them early game from laning leads and stuff like that. They're really good at playing through early game skirmishes as well, regardless of what happens in the laning phase. They're playing this from a laning advantage, and the way that they play this out is, again, like so few teams can do across the world. It feels like so few teams can find the openings the way that JDG do right now. They feel so comfortable the way that they look for players. And Ruler, you know, using his ult, tanking tower under inner turret at 16 minutes. Like, name another player that's doing that right now. I mean, yeah, he dies for it. This one's not the best example, but...
The only other player I can think of is Uzi. But I love how aggressive he's being, right? Like, what essentially 1v3, he's chasing Mole during that team fight. He's like, you've got no cooldowns. I just watch you use everything. I am going to just auto you to death and finishes the kill off. And then, like you say, trying to dive onto Assume, using the Feather Storm aggressively, which he was punished for. And this is one of the things we've been saying about Xiaoshu. This is a guy that is willing to punish you if he sees a mistake. But... I mean, it's only a tiny punish in the grand scheme of this game, isn't it? Herald up onto the map again. It's Feather and Lien. Would love to contest it, but I'm not sure they're going to be able to.
So, quickly stopping in with item builds as well. We're seeing second items built up. One of the reasons I advocate for Medjai's being built second is because it gives you so much flat pan. Ruler doesn't have all. He's dead. He won't let me talk.
He used everything in the previous fight to try and solo kill Assume. And now he pays for that. He assumed he was strong enough.
You're so clever, Much. Now, what that does mean is that Herald is going to go down to Rare Atom. It would be their first objective of the entire game, and a rare point where it does feel like they have had some advantage. Hook lands.
And there we go. There's that one shot we were talking about. I mean, Kai'Sa Q is just mini Syndra ult, and then Syndra ult is just Mega Syndra ult.
Yeah.
So you got 2 Syndra ults that will follow him no matter where he goes.
And Merc Treads will know, Rakan can't survive 5 people picking him off at once. So Rare Atom, they finally get to use the composition the way it was intended to, and they're still down 6,000 gold. They have themselves a Herald. I don't know how much they can get off of this, sadly, because I look at the way the map is right now. If you're pushing in for any individual tower across the Rift, the likelihood is you're going to get engaged on as you push in for a Herald charge. So they need to be very careful about where they put down the Herald across the Rift, because I don't think JDG are going to give it to them for free, and Rare Atom still can't win a straight-up fight. They can win a couple of these opportunistic plays. This is just a really good read. You can see the teleport coming into mid lane, corralling Ruler into a bad spot, and that forced him to go into River, into the path of the Blitzcrank. So well played from Rare Atom, but they do have to contribute that teleport to the play at least.
I love that you see Kanavi throw out his ult, and then a split second later go, yeah, nah, I'm out of here. Just dipped over the wall. Good luck, Ruler. Godspeed. 2 items, though, finished off for Ruler. I mean, 2 items finished up across the board almost. It's only missing. Doesn't have it. Mole has been spotted as missing. Playing in enemy territory. And Mole looking nervous. He's afraid that some kind of dive could happen. And I think rightly so, because Missing is looking for him. Quickness going to come out. In fact, Quickness not even needed here. Just going to be taken down.
He absolutely explodes. Mole, really not having the easiest side of things. At least 369 is taken as for his third death of the game. That might open up the map a little bit. It gives some gold into Xiaoshu. Problem is, you're losing an inner turret on top side. And since Baron is spawning the next few seconds as well, JDG have complete control over the top side of the map. This is a momentary even trade for Rare Atom with objective bounties involved in it. But, I mean, in the long scheme of things, how do you defend Baron now that you've lost both inner towers on mid lane and top lane?
That's a question that I cannot answer, Namira. It's a question that RA will have to answer. 369, you know, caught out. I'm assuming all out comes through as well, yeah. And then the Cyclone. There's only so much you can do when you don't get to move in the 2v1.
This is best, and he doesn't get dragged through the wall this time, but still, Xiaoshu playing out the matchup fairly well. Remember that this was the counterpick Cassante. Well, I mean, every lane was technically counterpicked from Rare Atom, it just hasn't been enough. Xiaoshu going to try and claim as much gold across the map and try and become an individual threat. I just don't know if that will realistically ever translate into a point which Rare Atom can win team fights with it, though. They're winning some side lane situations, but it's a stopgap measure for absolute flood coming into the Rare Atom ship.
Feather and Lian being a little sneaky with it, but not anymore. Feather has been spotted and immediately locked down by Kanavi. Ruler trying to follow up onto it, and it's Knight to finish the kill. 8 stacks now on the Medjais, and not too far off finishing a death cap. The Pot Blossoms are going to do absurd damage when that third item is finished.
This is the most damage you can get towards squishy targets in terms of a 3-item build. Ever since the death cap ratio was increased from 35% to 40% extra AP on the item, if you get a full stack Medjais, it goes up to like 190 AP for a single item. It is absolutely absurd. And of course, being a cheap legendary item, it gives you some extra magic penetration from the Pro-Develop Mythic passive, which means that you look at someone like the Kai'Sa, who has 0 built-up MR. They're going to have, what, 30 to 35 MR? They're going to have none against Knight.
It's essentially true damage at that point. Missing, caught out, but Xiaoshu trades his life for it. And now, I mean, this is going to be the third tier 2 taken here. In the meantime, Ruler wasn't even with the team. Ruler was just pushing waves, just taking control. 20 seconds till Drake comes up as Mole answers with a tier 1 on the top side. Lian has found himself in enemy territory here. He's trying to be sneaky as Feather moves over as well. A TP coming on through. Lian, secret agent, but found now by 369 as the Dominus comes through. Mole is here. Knight over the wall. Has to help his teammate, but doesn't even need to. They don't even commit onto the Renekton.
So there was a flank teleport coming in from Rare Atom. If they could have, again, isolated a single target, that would have been huge for them. Ult's back up for JDG, though, and that's a stinger.
Yeah, Mole does flash away, though, as in they go. Kanavi going to be stuck and kind of flumps his flash. There's a Pot Blossom that just eradicates the health bars. And now Ruler's here. 369 tanking up so the feathers can fly. And Dragon may have been won despite the fact Kanavi went down.
There's no smite available for either team. There's a chance of a bit of a miracle contest. JDG, what are they going to do about this?
Stun comes out onto Missing here. Xiaoshu dives forward once again. There's a good route from Knight, but great buffer from Xiaoshu as well. 369 is resetting. He has His TP available, but there's a Xayah in the game. That is a smite, essentially. I don't know how Knight is the one to grab that one, but it doesn't matter. Xiaoshu being focused down now as Feather falls to start it off. Xiaoshu with the all-out onto missing here, and in comes the Kai'Sa. Assume finishes Knight. This could be the fight for them as Ruler does find one to answer. 369 is back in the play. Assume you got to try and get out of there. Xiaoshu tries for a second time in the game, but it's Ruler with 3.
Wise to their tricks, the Ruler gets the kill. Assume no flash, no cleanse, but does have a Wukong to potentially help disengage.
The smite is good, but can 369 find his slice and dice through the minion wave? I think he can, and Assume is gone. 2v1 technically, but let's be honest, Assume no health and no mana. It was essentially a large minion.
JDG know the secret to nuclear fission. They split the atom. They take the fight on multiple fronts. They win it, even though it gets a little bit awkward with Knight going down. They get themselves an Infernal Soul. They're going to get themselves the Baron. And despite losing a couple of kills along the way, they are going to get themselves into a hugely dominant position, even beyond what they'd already achieved in this first game. They're up towards a 9,000 gold advantage. And Rare Atom, with the Baron now being taken, I don't think you can take the individual pick fights around the Blitzcrank. This is, of course, after what's happened with the junglers. Both smites are down, but as you're saying, Xayah is pretty much a smite by yourself, and JDG, they call it out, they throw the skill shot to once, and just so happens that Knight end up picking up the kill at that point. After this, it gets a little bit weird because everyone starts flying around the map. Kai'Sa gives you that unparalleled ability to fly from one side of the fight to the other, but it doesn't matter when Ruler is so strong. Effectively, all you've done there is isolated your top laner and everyone else against the uber-fed Xayah.
And I will say, Ruler literally 1v1'd Mole and then 1v1 Xiaoshu in that fight.
Assume it's just like,
who cares
I'm
about
out.
solo XP? Yeah, absolutely disgusting. I assume having none of it, he tries to find off Knight instead. And you know, this has been scrappy. This has been a fun game to cast. Rare Atom are fighting JDG, but I feel like they started fighting a bit too late in the game where JDG already had their lead for themselves. But one thing that has to be said, you can never quite count out a team with a Blitzcrank as the hook goes wide. Lien managing to clone away from the Sejuani ult though.
And he does. So, ult traded for hook. This Sejuani is going to be a real thorn in the side of Rare Atom. It takes so long to die. By the time you take down Kanavi, someone's probably already been picked off by Knight's huge ultimate on the side of the play as well. Baron buff, of course, still ticking over for JDG. They're using this to push in. It really is on Feather trying to find a miracle hook, and he misses.
Feather jumped over the wall for it, gets stunned up, and Ruler will finish the job as this might actually just be game. With Baron in pocket, you have to assume that JDG will keep on pushing down the mid lane. They can move over to the top side as well to push this one in. But with a man advantage, it wouldn't surprise me to see them go for more. I suppose Kanavi having his ult on cooldown does make it a little more difficult to engage. They do have a Rakan. Lien's clone will take a lot of damage, but I'm not sure they're too worried about that one. Great little route on Xiaoshu there from Ruler.
Wave is not pushed in towards the bot side, but with Baron up for another 40 seconds, they'll have another wave and a half of this to go through. They're taking a lot of damage off these turrets.
Oh my god. Yeah, I mean, the cannons will finish that one off. Lien jumps in and dives back out immediately. Wave pushing in the top side. Mid-wave is a while away. But it's going to be super minions coming as well. First tower goes down, stun onto Lien. He clones to keep himself safe, but now is big damage onto Feather. 369 almost finishes the kill off. And here come the super minions. And 15 seconds on the Baron for that super to shred through the tower here. JDG are going to finish the job with a triple pop blossom to eradicate RA. They're onto the fountain. Maybe no, Knight died. Knight died to the fountain. I was thinking maybe pentakill territory, but JDG, no time for it. They'll take this game down in 27.5.
And they make it look so easy. What do you do against a team like JDG, especially when they're on this kind of form? I mean, you have so many different problems you have to overcome. The first of which is, can you win these lanes? This was a draft with multiple counter picks in draft. Maybe you have to look at that blue side now from Rare Atom and say, we have to take away some power picks, but then you risk the fact that maybe JDG have enough counter picks for you, which you couldn't pull off in game one. And even if that happens, you have to outplay them in the team fights, which, as we saw, very, very difficult to do. Team WE, just earlier in the week, they had a okay series of early games versus JDG, and then it came to team fights, that just didn't matter. You're going to have similar issues even if you